So I saw this post by Joshua here on LinkedIn, and he just sat for his CCIE Enterprise Infrastructure Lab exam. And, there in the airport on the ride home, just not knowing whether you've passed or failed. I mean, that's got to be one of the most daunting things, not only for, Cisco and especially, the highest cert, the CCIE, but almost any certification, regardless of if you're just starting your journey or if you're kind of a veteran at the game. But to be quite honest, that CCIE lab experience is kind of one that's honestly like no other. I mean, we know for me, it took 3 attempts to pass that EI, that same exam. So I'm definitely wishing and hoping and praying that he gets the good news and gets that number, and of course, in just a month or two, that plaque. But just to not know whether you passed or not, to me, quite honest, it's kind of a good thing because, like I said, going back on my journey, the very first attempt, I mean, which I thought I was amazing at DMVPN, but for whatever reason, the nerves have still got to me. And I knew, like, I failed that exam. And like I told a few, I didn't even come back after lunch. I mean, to be quite honest. So I learned from it, the topology, knowing kind of what to expect, understanding, how the various autonomous systems work together. Don't think we had much with IPv6 back then. A little bit of OSPF, EIGRP, etc. But like I said, not to say the big thing was DVPN, but there were those, NHRP and, just different things that needed, for whatever reason, it just wasn't clicking that day. And we fast forward to my second attempt to where, again, I stayed till after lunch on that one. But I, at the end, kind of felt like I bombed. I mean, there are, because of the tasks that you get in your ass, almost like in math where they say there's always a way to check your answer. Whether it's a reachability test, a ping, whether it's configuring proper username, password, priv15, etc. There's different show commands that you can get, especially the bulk of it's going to be knowing that your routes are propagating and extending across, the broad topology that they're going to have there. So, but with the new flavor again, the third attempt that, of course, Joshua and myself taking, there's that automation that's thrown in that wasn't there back in 2015, 16, around the time where I took those first 2 attempts. And, that very first part with, the questions, etc. I don't know if they call it diagnostics, but you kind of have a feeling for how you did there as well. But that big chunk, the 4 or 5 hours that you have, for however long it is on that last part, that's the one that's going to make or break. And not knowing how the scoring is, partial credit, etc., I can understand. But like I said, if you, Joshua, aren't uncertain, then to me that's more of a positive thing, because when you bomb, you know that you've bombed. So I mean, that's the good thing. But going all the way back, I don't know that I know there's no one single tried and true method for, regardless of, which track you're taking. But back in the day, folks are like back in the day, but for a lot of us, we of course use various books, as you can see here. And I still think, whether it's reading the RFCs, sprinkling in some of the books, different workbooks, which, have changed and evolved over time as well, and getting some stick time. Cisco offers, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 hour sessions. I think it's 4 maybe, whether there's certain different areas that you can, reserve time and practice. I definitely needed that, to me, to understand, the SD-WAN portion of it, like not having the stick time in an enterprise when I was taking mine. I had to have it to get familiar with and reinforce with, the video training and things like that. So there's just so many tools that are available. And like I said, we know when we're learning out here, a lot of you that may be out there seeking guidance as well want to know the way to get it. And like I said, it's just a combination of things. It's knowing yourself, how you learn. And that's why I said, I won't say regardless of who you listen to, but no, Reddit or whatever, that's 60-70% of the stick time, the practice, and all of that. But like I said, and I don't know if this is Joshua's first attempt or not. Hopefully, it's the first time go, just like on mine's. But that sitting down for 8 hours, there is no substitute. I mean, they told us to, whether it's mentors or whatnot, try to sit in your home. Like I said, I&E had a lot of workbooks, now K-Bits, Airhun Oregon. Like, there's so many that have, I mean, Andre, um, has so many different things on the automation side that you can practice, but there's just no substitute for the intrinsic or intangible type of pressure. People worry about what kind of keyboard and mouse pad and all of that. Like I said, everyone's different, so I'm not knocking anyone there. Ask whatever questions you need. I always see those questions. I'm like, man, that'd be the least of my worries. But like I said, to each its own. But it's that ability to think underneath pressure that you can maybe test yourself on that in a lab type environment. But when you think something's working, when a certain part of the task and you want to ask the mentor, like all of these things, that clock that's ticking, talking, and typically there's one on the wall. I wouldn't advise sitting with it right in front of you. Maybe, to the left. Every lab is different. I've seen RTP, Richardson, and Dubai. So I don't know how all of them are around the world. But I mean, that like I said, even when I passed and that third attempt, I kind of knew I passed. Or I very confidently that everything was working the way it should and all my checks and validations were there. But even yet and still, I mean, I might have had 32 minutes left and I don't think I had any gotchas or bugs or, always double checking and things like that. For me, I typed everything out in Notepad. I always worried if something went wrong or something like that and I needed to restart or copy paste, etc. Do WR or just WR, right? To the term, like to the disk was something I did throughout it. But I mean, just little small things like that. Folks say, whether it's, show run pipe SRO, like the shorthand type commands or using aliases. It does maybe save you time, but it's not like, to me, truthfully, you're not going to save 10 or 15 minutes. But there'll be mentors that tell you how to do that. So again, to each his own, figure out that stuff in your practice, in your studies. But like I said, it's just no experience or journey like that, whether it's CISSP, PMP, the various GIAC exams that I've taken, currently studying 3 or 4 certs at the same time, like OSCP. Like, I mean, each of them has their own flavor, but to sit for it, like I said, there's no substitute there. And then when you get your lunch and you get it, that's the only chance you get to talk to your peers that are taking the test there. Of course, don't talk about the exam, but the person that's in the room, that's the proctor there, typically eats with you as well. Sometimes they walk away, etc. But it's just so much to it. And like I said, I'm proud. Just his last statement here, no matter what the result is, I'm proud to have made it this far. And that's what I always say, whether it's your first cert, the one that you're getting ready to take, the one you just like, regardless of where you are in your journey, it is that ultimate journey, the growth, the evolution. As we get older, I think we understand it, or it means something a little bit more. Just like it's your first job, your first salary, your first bank account, whatever. There's not really something to compare it to. But when you kind of, get that stick time and get more hours into the game and are able to more look back and truly look in the mirror and attest to these things, I think, like I said, it's the trying something that maybe you shouldn't. I won't say in production, whether it's an outage, whether it's helping a team, whether it's someone getting angry and you keeping the team, keeping your cool, whether it's doing documentation that no one else wants to do, whether it's finding a bug or an error here or there, like just all of that, the combination of it, that growth is, again, part of the journey. So I wouldn't discount it for anything. And if there's any advice that I'd have to say for anyone that's going to pursue it, it's really just try to lock in, get that commitment from the family first. If you have, family living with you and friends, that's one thing that people try to act like they won't undermine it. Like, I'm more of a introvert myself. So I mean, I stay to myself. So it's easy for me to just weekends, nights, wake up early, whatever, and have my own schedule. But sometimes when you got, others that, demand part of your time, um, you got to figure that out with them as well. And then secondly, like I said, maybe it's doing that reverse azimuth. Like if I go here and this morning, actually, um, if I look at trying to schedule this exam, for some reason, I was like, oh, I thought I could book this CCIE Security. I look for automation. I look for CCIE. I'm studying both at the same time. I've been studying for CCIE Security off and on for the better part of 4 or 5 years. Like that's why you can see past the written maybe twice, but I've not ever sat for that lab. Automation, fake studying, just to be transparent, a year and a half ago. Um, Late last year, started getting the ball game again, made this video right here, and wanted to go down that one. But just, in plain sight to myself, like my heart, knowing not what do you want to do, but what do you need to do, whether it's OSCP, CPTS, and all of this. I mean, there's a timetable that's clicking from the subscription base for those, so I'm not the most worried. I'll probably do the CPTS before the OSCP, because if I don't get her done by December, it is way less than to re-up that OSCP. Well, really, actually, I should do it the other way around. Like, thinking out loud. But it's the CCIE Security and the sheer number of appliances and just what I got going on the job as a consultant and things like that I think that I know is way more valuable for the current market, not discounting automation and things like that, just U.S. government and things like that. We can think and say that it's caught on, but when you get, just like IPv6, when you get in there and see whether there's, CTOs or mandates or OMB memos, the government is will to lever. These folks are behind. It's something that should have been supposedly going in 2016, 17, whatever. I think IPv4 is going to be around for another 15 plus years. So I'm not saying if you're out there studying, you have a problem or challenge with truly understanding IPv6, but on the job, how does it relate? Don't worry about it, but learn it, definitely. Like, I'm not going to ever knock that. But the truth be told is that most folks still, the underlying underlay is still, the logical components is taking advantage of IPv4. And again, not to speak or talk for everybody. Like I said, there are customers out there that are taking advantage of IPv6, but like I said, a lot of things that we learn from a practical side, testing, etc., like in that gap between what do they really need and what do you want and what do you do on a job, I think that's some of the talks, the video that really doesn't get talked about as much, because it's not the sexy type stuff, to be quite honest. But I'm digressing from CCIE, but when I hit record, I just start talking and getting back to Joshua's statement here. Like I said, I hope I'll write a comment here after I hit stop on this video. But like I said, I'm wishing y'all the best, and it just brought me back to my journey. And I don't want to make this, like, how'd you make myself talk about myself after the video? Because I don't know this gentleman, to be quite honest. I just saw it on my homepage, and but like I said, the older you get, it's just reflection and memory sometimes that bring things back, and bringing words to life, or whatever that phrase is. I think sometimes we should share our journey as best we can. I mean, we don't always say it or get it perfect, or people, I don't know what you mean by so. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to speak on it and hope that something through there. Like I said, there's no one magic pony trick solution for how you have to study. A lot of it is kind of knowing yourself, knowing the blueprint, getting, to me, some type of vendor, trainer. I won't say mentor, things like that. Whether it's video, labbing, it's going to be a combination of that for the most part. Because when we say stick time or repetition, that's what it is most of these give you X percent, 60+% of the way there, that because they align their video training with the blueprint, but it's nowhere close to 100%. Or those, I'm trying to think without, like, I took my exam so long, I'm not saying it, but in my opinion, I think sometimes the way that, well, actually, I won't say I know, I kind of do know, but the way the task is worded, not to say it's ambiguity, but like you almost have to syntactically write it a certain way. Think about it because of the way the grader is gonna grade it. There's probably like you can write, I won't say variable from the automation side, but like on the security side, like the name if you're gonna have to punctual uppercase, lowercase, capitalization, you're gonna have to do it just like they say. But like let's say you're well, I don't think they ever tell you to write a description, but if there's something that's the equivalent of a variable, like you don't always have to like when they're scoring that, like I think they skip that part. But where they're gonna have to have some kind of show command for verification or validation, the same way if you were to automate that and write it, that task, that function, if it was coding out, like there needs to be some kind of from a QA perspective way to check that yes, this is good. Not to say proceed, but give it a +1 for a score. Sum equals this plus X plus one, like that kind of a stuff. Um, so that's why I say I don't know it, but there has to be a way um, to not have a answer that has subjectivity to it, because that's where it comes into play for all the candidates that have set for that question. Oh, we probably have to pull that back. Yeah, I don't work for Cisco now. That's a past life here and there, but um, talking in circles now. And like I said, guys, I don't normally edit anything out, so I let this ball roll. But like I said, I want to give a big shout out to Joshua for just the content today, for allowing me to just hit record and just talk to you all out there. If there's any questions about a journey that you're taking, I mean, I know I've pivoted daggone 6 times this year, and for the supporters out there, man, it's my bad, but I think it's the not make or break. I'm life has been good to me. It's a blessing with work and things like that. I know it's tough out there, but that's not what the certs or whatnot. It's just always keep challenging myself. But sometimes I have to be more realistic about, well, what the hell are you, excuse my friend, but what the heck are you going to do with this? Because back up the last 4 years, some of these AWS certs, cool to get them, but, and I mean, I know it, but like, I'm like, why do I keep renewing this networking? Or like, all right, the folks know I know it. Like, it's not like I'm going after this contract to have it. Especially them CompTIAs. I'm like, so we get to that point where it's like, man, you got all these certs and everybody wants you, feel like you freaking renewing a cert every 2-3 months or something like that. So it's making the choice now at this season of my life, at this part of my journey, what should bear fruit and what value or what am I actually going to get out of it. So that's what's kind of been dictating the direction that I go. And whether I start a path at this point, I would not ever in the past truly ever start a path and not take the test or this. But again, I'm at the season and time in my life to where there's nothing that's forcing me to get any cert. Probably, well, I won't say the future. I don't know what this AI stuff will look like, but luckily, and like I said, knock on wood, God bless that, that I'll be okay with the knowledge that I have, the ability to sit in front of anyone and just be able to converse and talk regardless of the topic. I think that's the intrinsic strength or one of them that I have, as well as the interpersonal skills, the ability to, lead a group, lead a conversation, calm things down. Like I know how to get that through on an interview or whatnot. And those kind of soft skills, although folks want someone technical, truth be told, you got to think of when you join a team or within an organization, part of it is how will this person fit within, I won't say the ecosystem, but within the team dynamics for this organization's culture. And I think that's what a lot of folks sometimes misplay or don't think about on these interviews. It's always, let me think about this OSPF command, or let me think about, BGP, route reflector, confederations, etc. And like I said, once you get to a certain part, especially having interviewed so many folks, to me, it's not the make or break. I'm not saying someone can miss every technical question, but if I can see myself working with them, see them leading, see them not getting hunkered underneath when times get tough, they just change their tone, etc. Being calm underneath pressure, knowing how to independently research, knowing how to do bombs and building materials. things like that, design perspectives that mean a little bit more as time goes on, modernization effort. Like these are intangibles. These aren't like this technical thing, and become leaders and thought leaders and team leaders, etc. Like that's kind of typically the folks that I think for a 2+ year period for a slot or a job are going to be better than that super technical. And I'm not comparing. I'm speaking in the generic sense, but like I said, I think these type of things are not conveyed or shared with the world. I won't say the world, but with a lot of folks as well. Because all I ever see or read in Reddit about interviews or this or that, it's just all technical stuff. And for entry level, which is hard to, I don't see a lot of entry level jobs anymore. Well, I won't say that, but I mean, it's like junior anything, network administrator, developer, database administrator, whatever, like they're going by the wayside of the dinosaurs. But, man, I've gotten way away from CCIE, but like I said, let me wrap this video up. But I just want to thank each and every one of you out there for always rocking here with me. I mean, I think we've had this channel for maybe 3 years now. Network Your Future was the start. I mean, I need to update the website. I haven't done anything with that for a few years, and maybe look to do some more courses. We got a mini series coming up. Probably start with that maybe in 2 weeks. We'll probably knock out the CCIE Security written in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and focus every weekend. Wake up at 4, study from 4 to 6:30. Now we'll probably wake up at 4, study 4 to 5:30, go for a short walk, come back and study for 30 minutes, shower, and try to get the 30+ hours in a week. Limited at nights, an hour or two here. Maybe we'll do our reading at nights, but the grind and the focus that has gotten me, I'm just one person, and a lot of folks that I hear through it, is it's those hours before and after work, the work day starts. No different than when you hear a lot of, back in the day, we used to have, there we go, that back in the day. I'm about to be quiet. I'm all right, 20 something minutes. But military folks would say, we do more before something, 6 a.m., 5 a.m. than most people do all day. I used to laugh, but then I started thinking about it, especially lately, like the last 6 months, I do wake up at 5:30 or early. It is true, man. You get a jump start on a day if somehow you can do that. So it's no different than with your studies. I know people got one job, two job, kids, whatever, but I've always been a man of no excuses. And I'll listen to other people's excuses, but you ain't about to sit here and hear me make excuses. And if I could share kind of, if only folks know what I got going on, they'd be like, oh man, I don't know how you do it. But, we keep it going, we keep it moving. And this is the last pivot and change. We will knock this CCIE Security out either late September or early October. Again, we tried booking that lab today, but I was like, oh, that CCIE written expired, so we got to knock that out. And just got to brush up on ICE a bit more. I think we're good with ASA, whether it's clustering, whether it's context, whether it's the routes, static routes, understanding the syntax for the name if that it's going, the same way with the network, the subnet mask, and then of course the gateway or the destination, as opposed to like IP route on a router. Understanding that ICMP isn't inspected by default, TCP and UDP, and kind of what that really means within the grand scheme of things. That's just on the ASA side. I mean, FTD did a little bit with that. Got to get back into it, but that's the thing we like. ESA, WSA. There's so many appliances and tools, but at the end of the day, too, I think that means typically, well, from what I've seen in the blueprint, there's only so deep that they can go. Well, I won't say that I think they can go in the test. So more to follow. We'll keep you updated on that. Maybe once or twice a month, we'll do a status update. But like I said, I'm about to get out of here. I know I did my wrap up earlier, but until next time, stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Peace.